Welcome back, friend. This is a story told slowly, by a gentle voice made of light and code, so that you can let go of the day. Settle in. Last night, we watched a prince choose the forest over a crown. We saw him cross a wide river at dawn with his wife and his brother. And we saw a kingdom learn how to wait, a pair of worn wooden sandals resting on a golden throne, keeping his place. 14 years, said the forest, and for a while, the forest kept them gently. Tonight, the story goes deeper among the trees. A deer, the color of lamplight, an old eagle of the air who remembers everything, and beside a lake of lotuses, a friend unlike any other in this world. There is nowhere you need to be. Let the river carry the words, and if sleep comes, let it come. The story knows the way. We are in the deep forest now, the Dandaka, south of the last friendly maps, where the three exiles walked for year after year among hermitages, like guests moving slowly down a very long table. The forest years pass gently in the poem. The great sage Agastya, keeper of the south, gave Rama a bough of Vishnu's own and advised them where to settle a place called Panchavati, the grove of 5 banyans, on the banks of the river Godavari, green shade, clear water, deer at the tree line. Lakshmana built the house himself, bamboo and thatch, and a floor of packed earth. And on the way they had made one more friend, an enormous ancient eagle drowsing on a bough, who woke and named himself Jatayu, a friend of your father's children. Let me live near you, the old bird said, and watch over the daughter of Janaka when your errands take you from home. And so the household stood 3 exiles, and above them, on wide, slow wings, a grandfather. More than 12 of the 14 years passed at that pace. Hold that. The exile is nearly over. They are nearly home. What comes now comes quickly, and remember it comes as the gods themselves had arranged, for reasons older than any person in the story. Heaven is holding its breath, not in fear but in hope. Let it come gently. One winter morning, a stranger arrived at Panchavati, a woman of the Rakshasa people, the old night race of the south, a sister of the great king Ravana himself. Her name was Shurpanaka. She saw Rama by the river and wanted him, immediately and completely, the way a storm wants a coastline, and she said so. Rama declined her, courteously, a married man. She turned to Lakshmana. He declined her too, less courteously, and when her frustration turned toward Sita, seeing rightly that Sita was the reason Lakshmana's blade came out, and Shurpanaka fled south, wounded in her face and far more deeply in her pride, crying her brother's name. The poem gives that army a whole book of thunder, and I will give it a sentence, told the way the forest remembers it. An army came north through the trees, and Rama stood alone in front of the little house. And by evening the army was gone, all of it, and the forest swallowed the sound, and the birds came back. That is how we will tell every battle tonight. What matters is never the noise. What matters is the small house still standing in the evening light. But a name had been spoken that could not be unspoken, and it traveled south across the water, to Lanka. And it is time I spoke to you, carefully and fairly, about Ravana. He was not a beast. That is too easy, and the poem is better than that. Ravana of Lanka was one of the most learned beings of his age, a master of the ancient books, a musician whose fingers could make the Veena sound like weeping, a king whose island city was roofed in gold. He had won his power through 10,000 years of austerity that impressed the gods themselves into granting him that famous protection, untouchable by gods and by demons. He left men off the list. Pride wrote that list, and pride, as always, signed it. His fall, as I told you at the beginning, was already written. He had written it himself, in the fine print of his own blessing. Hold that like a small lamp through everything that is coming. Nothing that follows is in doubt. Shurpanaka stood in his golden hall and did not speak of her own wound. She was cleverer than that. She spoke of Sita, of a woman in the forest, more beautiful than dawn, on water, Wasted, she said, on a wandering hermit prince. She aimed her brother like a bow, and he was easy to aim. Ravana went first to an old Rakshasa named Maricha, who lived as a genuine hermit now, gray and quiet, a survivor of Rama's arrows years before, who understood exactly what Rama was. "Help me draw him away from his house," said Ravana. "Become a deer." Maricha refused, and warned him, "A king who does this ends himself and his whole people. And against Rama, I would rather die obedient than live watching you fall." Ravana would not hear it, so Maricha bowed to his king and chose the manner of his own death and became the deer. And what a deer! A deer the color of lamplight, dappled with silver, antlers tipped as if dipped in soft gold, moving at the edge of the clearing in the late sun, too beautiful to be true, which was precisely the truth of it. Sita saw it from the doorway and wanted it, the one childish wish the poem ever gives her. And after 12 years of bark cloth, she had earned one. Lakshmana looked once and said, quietly, that no real deer looks like that. But Rama went to catch it living if he could, and told Lakshmana to guard Sita until he returned. The deer led him deep, deeper, always almost caught, for a long green hour. When the arrow finally found it, the deer's shape fell away, and Maricha, dying, did his king's last bidding. He cried out across the whole forest, in Rama's own borrowed voice, "O Sita, O Lakshmana, help me." At the cottage, that cry landed like a stone in still water. Sita heard her husband's voice dying and became a wave of fear. Lakshmana, who knew nothing in that forest could harm his brother, refused to leave her until she said things in her terror that she would never have said in daylight. And the poem forgives her, and so must we, and so did he. And Lakshmana did the only impossible thing available. He disobeyed his brother out of obedience to her, bowed, and walked toward the cry, leaving the clearing guarded by nothing but the afternoon. Then an old wandering holy man came to the cottage door with his begging bowl, and Sita, who had never in her life let a guest go unfed, stepped out with fruit in her hands. You know who it was. She fed him and answered his courteous questions, and only slowly did the guest stop pretending, and the beggar's robe fell away, and there stood the king of Lanka in the last of the light, asking her, with terrible politeness, to be his queen. She refused him the way rock refuses. The poem says he took her up, and the chariot rose, and the clearing was suddenly, enormously empty. She called Rama's name to the hills, and the hills passed it from one to another as far as they could carry it, which was not far enough. The trees leaned after her. The river ran on. The afternoon, which had been asked to guard her, could only watch her go. One being did more than watch. Old Jatayu, drowsing on the wind, heard her voice and came awake, and the poem gives the old eagle the most honored death it has to give. He rose against the chariot and demanded her back, and then refused. He fought an old grandfather of the air against the storm of the age, wings against iron, for as long as age can fight. Long enough to break the chariot once, not long enough. He fell through the evening sky slowly, the way great trees and great servants fall, and he did not die. He held on, wingless in the grass, because he had seen which way the chariot went, and someone would need to know. Devotion, the poem says here without saying it, is stronger than victory. Rama came back through the dusk with Lakshmana and found the doorway empty. It was Jatayu, found at last in the trampled grass, who gave the answer with his final breaths. Ravana, south. She lives. And Rama held the old eagle like a father and gave him the last rites a son gives, with river water and his own hands, and the fire on that small bier stood straight up into the still evening air. South, then. Grief with a direction is already half hope. On the way, an ancient wild spirit they released from a curse rose luminous out of his own burning and told them exactly where to go to the lake, Pampa,